Hi, hello. Let's talk about dissociation and why dissociation in trauma is like a double-edged sword. Now, dissociation is actually the brain's emergency relief valve, okay? So when the emotional pressure from trauma becomes too intense, we dissociate because it helps us manage and create a temporary disconnect from immediate reality. Now, this can very often make a person feel as if they're observing their life from the outside and they're not fully participating in their life. Now, this mechanism can be seen as our brain's attempt to protect itself from emotional overload by turning off or by tuning out, and because life has just become too difficult to handle. So what types of dissociation do we have? First of all, depersonalization. So what does it feel like? It feels like we are suddenly a spectator in our own life. We watch actions and thoughts, but they feel like they belong to someone else. So life almost feels quite robotic, and our movements and our responses are automatic. Okay, so what is a common trigger? Highly stressful situations, or when our trauma is triggered and we remember it and we feel emotionally or physically connected, it becomes really painful and really very dangerous. So we have a fear response. Now, what does this do? It leads to significant distress, and that leads to problems in our day-to-day functionality, and we tend to just lose grip on our reality. So it's like living a constant dream in a movie, and the world around us is seriously foggy, it's distorted, it becomes unreal, okay? We can also suffer from dissociated amnesia, and this is where we develop gaps in our memory or in our concentration, and a lot of our personal information becomes distorted. Significant events we forget about, or we become quite traumatized. Often when children go through traumatic experiences, they can describe it as not remembering it. I don't remember what happened. I don't really know. And unfortunately, at times, they can fill those gaps with what they think has happened. So when children suffer dissociation, it's often very, very serious. So what other forms of dissociation can we suffer from? Well, dissociative identity disorder, or what we used to consider as multiple personality disorder. So dissociation often forms, it's quite complex, but they're two different identities that we may be able to develop. And often the brain will borrow identities that aren't useful for us, and we will use them when we are in a state of trauma. Often they can be good or they can be bad, but common triggers are when we have severe or prolonged traumatic experiences, if they are physical for us, in relationships which become emotionally abusive because they don't stop, they just keep on. And unfortunately, dissociation will help us. It basically makes our symptoms far worse than we are. So why do we dissociate? Why do we even need it? Well, it's a crucial mental defense mechanism, and particularly when we face trauma every day, like it might be who we live with, or it might be our parents, it might be the environment we're in, but it helps us to confront these really overwhelming psychological distresses. It's like our brain's emotional overload functionality system. You know, our brain's primary goal is to ensure that we survive. and that we don't process these massively distressing emotions. So it just disassociates. Okay. So how do we help our clients move through this really, really awful period of disassociation? Well, the therapies that we use help and stimulate different parts of the brain that's involved in processing our memories. We simply help it, make it easier to work through and resolve these traumatic experiences. So it's particularly effective for clients who dissociate because it simply allows you to access the trauma memory in a safe environment. It's controlled by the way we run our therapy sessions, and then it reduces the brain's need to actually disassociate. So the therapy becomes the protection from disassociation, but you're actually dealing with the disassociation. So we then help the brain to create new neural pathways, which means that in the future, when you suffer a traumatic event, you don't disassociate. So it's biology, it's science, it uses very useful methods, and we teach you how to do this in our trauma recovery method program. So if you want to know more about it, please DM me at the end of this live, Facebook message me, or use one of the links in the Facebook group and book a consultation with me. I'll take you through a proprietary process that we use to help you overcome trauma. I hope that was useful wherever you are in the world. For me, it's Thursday night, it's weekend eve. Have an amazing time. And if you're watching live, a big hello from me. I'll speak to you next week. Bye.